Hey everyone, hope you're well. Adam here at Six Silver Seals, and we have a ton of stuff to talk about this week. Three different planets going retrograde, plus two more changing signs. Um, so, like I said, lots to talk about, lots to get into. But before we do, I do want to remind you that if you want to get more astrology content like this, monthly tarot readings, access to the Night Sky newsletter, you really should go over to Patreon, Six Silver Seals there, just like here, and become a patron, get access to all this cool stuff. Um, I can't sell it any harder than that. Anyway, though, that's not what you're here for right now. Let's get to the good stuff, which is three planets that go retrograde starting on Monday and ending on Thursday. First up, we have Saturn going retrograde on May 11th in Aquarius. And Saturn is, because it's one of the further planets on this retrograde, it's going to last a while. It runs till September 29th. And, as an added bonus with this one, at some point during the retrograde, Saturn will cross back into Capricorn because it is only at 1 degree of Aquarius right now. So there's that. So Saturn, as a just kind of a refresher, is the planet of duty and responsibility and growth through hardship and obstacles. Also old age, but that's less relevant than the other stuff. And so while Saturn is retrograde, it's time to, like I've told you before about retrograde planets, their energies turn inward. It becomes, internal and reflective. And so it's looking at, where are we holding up our end of the bargain when it comes to the things that we're supposed to do, the responsibilities that we have. Are we doing the things that we should be? Aren't we doing the things that we should be? Particularly at first with respect to other people, because Aquarius is the humanitarian sign, but that energy will shift slightly once it moves back into Capricorn, and we'll start dealing again with the things those things that are Capricorn's purview, those things we were dealing with before when Saturn was there up until a couple of months ago, finances and also kind of society at large come into focus again while Saturn retrogrades back into the final degree of Capricorn. And again, it probably, like I say, it doesn't go direct again until September 29th, almost the end of that month. So you can probably expect it to be like November at the earliest before Saturn returns to Aquarius, and we get back on the footing that we're at currently. On Wednesday, May 13th, Venus will go retrograde in Gemini. And the interesting thing about that is that Venus only ever goes retrograde in one of 5 signs, that if you draw a line between the points where Venus goes retrograde, it forms a pentagram. But Venus is retrograde in the sign of the Twins. And so while it's here, it's going to be retrograde from May 13th until June 25th. So not nearly as long as the other two, but also a little more intense for that, as the inner planets usually are. It's gonna force us to sort of reevaluate, because retrogrades are always reevaluations. Reevaluate our value systems. What we care about. The things that we find beautiful, or and also just kind of that feminine creative energy, remembering that Venus is the Empress. And so, and it's going to be more intellectual than anything, because that's one of the purviews of Gemini is, intellectualism. It's an air sign, so it's going to be this very sort of thoughtful month and a half long period where we're kind of just like, what am I making? Why does it matter to me that I make this? What am I bringing to life, and why do I care about it? Again, of the three, it's the innermost planet, so it's going to be the one that resonates the closest to home of the 3 planets going retrograde this week in May. Um, so again, it's brief, but it is the most intense. The very next day, Thursday, May 14th, Jupiter will be going retrograde in Capricorn. Jupiter is already really ill at home in Capricorn. Capricorn tends to be a little bit restrictive and meticulous in a way that kind of goes against Jupiter's, jovial nature as the planet of growth and expansion. Um, Capricorn likes rules. Jupiter's not very big on them. So for it to be retrograde makes this even more kind of uncomfy. And it lasts almost as long as Saturn retrograde does. Jupiter goes retrograde, like I said, on May 14th, and it stays retrograde until September 12th. So again, a good, long, almost exactly 4-month window of kind of directing that, directing the growth inwards, like where are we growing with respect to, again, Capricorn is the thing about career and finances and societal roles. Jupiter is also the planet that makes the transition from inner to outer planets. It's the closest to the inner planets of the ones beyond Mars. So it's sort of inviting us to kind of marry. The one good thing about it, actually, is that it's kind of inviting us to marry the energies of Venus retrograde and Saturn retrograde. So it's going to be, again, a thing of just like, with respect to growth, where do the weeds need pruning? Where are we growing that we don't need to grow? And where are we growing that we need to focus on? Are we at a growth place or a dead end in our career? Are we at a growth place or a dead end with respect to something regarding our finances? It's a lot of questioning, a lot of self-examination. Remember, like I always say, astrology is participatory. You have to take part in it to get anything out of it. So you'll want to investigate for yourself what these energies are doing, especially with Saturn and Jupiter, because of how long they're retrograde for. Now, I did promise you that there were also a couple of planetary movements, and these sort of, at least one of them plays right along with the theme of, again, the sort of intellectual self-examination of an air sign, because Mercury will be moving into its home sign of Gemini the same day Saturn goes retrograde, May 11th, and Mercury is going to spend exactly 17 days in Gemini. It leaves Gemini for Cancer on May 28th. And while Mercury is in Gemini, Mercury is at home, so you might find your powers of thought and of communication are a whole lot stronger at this time than at maybe any other, except for when Mercury is in Virgo. And so it's you think faster, you communicate more easily. You probably have the fewest amount of struggle with technology. Again, and this is all going on at the same time that all these planets are going retrograde, so you're able to have those very sort of intellectually self-examining thoughts. You're able to kind of ask those questions of yourself of, am I living up to my responsibilities? Do I really value this thing that I'm putting work into? Because Mercury is there in a very favorable place to help you get through them. That will get interesting at some point when Mercury crosses over and conjuncts Venus in Gemini, but we'll talk about that when it happens. Last of all, for this video at least, is the movement of Mars into Pisces. And it's really going to be a case of Mars cooling its heels. This is going to be very interesting. Because again, Mars is the planet of action and assertion and drive and passion. It's described as having very masculine energy, and we're talking about Pisces, which is very watery, kind of. If you want to use this language, if Mars is masculine, Pisces is feminine, and so it's really just Mars kind of, having flown through Aquarius, kind of rounding the corner into Pisces and stepping into a puddle that turns out to be a lake, just a drop. Um, so energy takes on a much more dreamlike quality. It's Mars in Pisces is kind of the wouldn't it be nice to placement for Mars. It's the energy is there to dream, but maybe not necessarily to do, which is really unfortunate because Mars is a doer kind of planet. Um, Again, not very at home here. Uh, and so again, it's going to be this thing of having to really sort of drum up the, for lack of a better word, the chutzpah to get things done and get things moving, because it's almost Sisyphean in nature. It's just pushing a stone up a hill, um, and it lasts for not terribly long, but about as long as Venus retrograde. They are on the same day. Both start May 13th. And when Venus goes direct on June 25th, Mars will follow 2 days later on June 27th by moving into its home sign of Aries. So ultimately, what we're looking at here with these five planets making these moves is, for one, it's half the horoscope is going to shift in the matter of 3 days. Lots of stuff is going to get turned upside down. Expect the unexpected. It would almost seem paradoxical if not for Murphy's Law, but like everything you expect to move forwards will go backwards and vice versa. Um, Something that was, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead is just going to come to a complete stop, and other things are going to get kickstarted almost immediately. Kind of the way like pool balls collide, if you think about it. Like the one that hits the other just kind of stops there, and the other one starts moving. It's going to feel a lot like that. Things are going to jump from track to track that at first won't really make sense, and probably, especially given that a couple of them are outer planets, it might be Venus direct before lots of it makes sense in terms of why the shift from one to the other went the way that it did. But it's again, a really busy week. Be ready to spend a lot of time in your own head for the next couple of weeks or months. Um, if you want a more personal blow by blow account of how this is going to go for you, feel free to leave a comment or swing over to Patreon and let me know. I'm more than happy to help. In the meantime, stay safe, be kind to yourselves and each other, and I will see you next time.